You know, have you ever really stopped to think about how a company like Toyota makes sure it has exactly the right number of tires for the cars it's building, like right now? Or how a chocolate company gears up for that huge Easter rush without ending up with mountains of cocoa beans that go bad? It turns out, every single business that makes a physical product is grappling with this incredibly high-stakes dilemma.
It really boils down to this. It's a constant, nerve-wracking balancing act. If you order way too much stuff, you're tying up cash, you're burning money on storage, and you're risking it all going bad or becoming obsolete. But if you order too little, well, production just grinds to a halt. Customers get furious, and you're just watching potential sales vanish into thin air.
So the million-dollar question is, how do they find that perfect sweet spot? How do they get it just right? Well, it's not magic. There are several really powerful strategies they use to solve this puzzle, and we're going to break them all down. We're calling this the Goldilocks Problem, and for good reason. Just like in the fairy tale, businesses don't want their inventory too hot or too cold, too much or too little. They need it to be just right. Think about it. If Goldilocks decided to open a cupcake shop and she bought too few eggs, she'd run out halfway through the day and have a bunch of angry customers. But if she bought way too many, they just spoil. It's the perfect way to think about this challenge.
Okay, so here are the two nightmare scenarios every business wants to avoid. On one side, you have way too much inventory. It's like your money is literally just sitting on a shelf, collecting dust. You're paying for a warehouse to hold it, and all the while it could get damaged or just become totally outdated. But on the other side, having too little, man, that's a different kind of disaster. The entire operation can just stop cold. Nothing to sell, and a long line of very, very unhappy customers.
And trust me, this is not just some theoretical business school problem. Just look at Toyota back in 2022. A critical shortage of microchips, these tiny little parts, caused massive production delays. People were waiting up to a full year to get their new car. It's a perfect, real-world example of what happens when you don't have the materials you need right when you need them.
So there's actually a formal business term for all this, for solving this Goldilocks problem. It's called materials management. And it's the whole shebang, the entire strategy a business uses for handling its inputs, from ordering and storing them to actually using them in production, all to make sure everything flows as smoothly as possible.
All right, so how do you even start to get this right? Well, one of the most common strategies is essentially trying to predict the future. So let's look at the first tool in the toolbox, forecasting.
At its core, forecasting is really just a highly educated guess. A business will dig into all its past sales data, look at what's happening in the market, and then try to predict what customers are going to want tomorrow, or next month, or even next year. It's kind of like driving by looking in the rearview mirror to see what's coming up ahead. Let's go back to our chocolate company. They know from years and years of data that sales are going to absolutely spike around Easter and then again at Christmas. They probably also know that people tend to buy more chocolate in the colder months as a sort of comfort food. By analyzing all these predictable seasonal patterns, they can get their orders for cocoa and sugar in ahead of time to meet that demand. But, and this is a huge but, the past doesn't always predict the future, right? An insane, unexpected event like a global pandemic can come along and just completely shatter that forecast, making all those careful plans pretty much useless. So the takeaway here is that forecasting is definitely helpful, but it's still just a prediction. And if it's wrong, you're right back in that Goldilocks mess. So if forecasting is the educated guess, our next set of strategies is all about creating a super detailed, almost rigid plan. This is where you get into things like the Master Production Schedule, or MPS, and the Materials Requirement Plan, or MRP. It's really an attempt to impose some serious order on a pretty chaotic world.
Think of it this way. The Master Production Schedule, the MPS, is the big blueprint. It lays out exactly what products will be made, how many of them, and precisely when. That's the master plan. Then, flowing directly from that, you have the Materials Requirement Plan. This is the ultimate shopping list. It breaks down that master plan and calculates every single screw, every microchip, every ounce of paint you'll need, and tells you exactly when to order it.
Now, the big upside to this approach is clarity. You have a precise, step-by-step roadmap for your entire operation. But the huge downside is that it's really inflexible. If a new competitor suddenly pops up or customer tastes change overnight, this massive detailed plan can be incredibly slow and difficult to adjust. And this brings us to our third and probably most famous strategy. It's one that takes this idea of minimizing inventory to the absolute breathtaking extreme. It's called just-in-time.
And believe me, it is a true operational tightrope walk.
The idea behind just-in-time, or JIT, is pretty radical. Instead of having a big warehouse full of parts, you arrange for your suppliers to deliver everything at the exact moment it's needed on the assembly line. It's like a baker receiving a bag of flour from the mill just as they're about to mix the dough for the next loaf. That's the dream of JIT.
And you can see the goal here. A traditional business might have a massive warehouse, just full of stuff. A JIT business wants to have, well, virtually nothing. This approach, when it works, can slash storage costs and free up a ton of cash that would otherwise be stuck sitting on a shelf.
But all that efficiency comes with some serious risk. In 2022, when cargo workers in Korea went on strike, Hyundai's gigantic production line was forced to shut down within hours. Their entire system was built on the promise that those parts would arrive just in time.
And that really highlights the core vulnerability of the system. In a pure just-in-time model, you have zero buffer. Absolutely none. The second a supplier is delayed, by a strike, by bad weather, by anything, the entire production line can just stop. There are no spare parts to pull from.
Okay, so let's bring it all back together. We've seen how businesses try to predict the future with forecasting, how they create a master plan with MPS and MRP, and how they walk that tightrope with just-in-time. Each of these is a different attempt to solve that same Goldilocks problem, and every single one of them comes with some major trade-offs.
So here's a quick cheat sheet. Forecasting tries to use the past to see the future, but the future is, unpredictable. Detailed planning gives you a ton of control, but you lose your ability to adapt quickly. And just-in-time is unbelievably efficient, but it makes you completely and totally dependent on your suppliers. There is no single, perfect solution. It's always a balancing act.
Which leaves us with a final thought for today. After everything we've seen in the last few years, pandemics, strikes, global conflicts disrupting supply chains, a lot of businesses are starting to rethink their strategies. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. In our modern, unpredictable world, is that lean, hyper-efficient model of just-in-time still worth the incredible risk? Something to think about.